Hi, I'm Todd Bartine with Archangelis Games, and today we'll talk about how to play our latest release in the Pocket Games series, Pocket Attorney. The first game in the series, Pocket Privateer, allowed you to act as captain of a pirate ship sailing the Caribbean, searching the islands for pirate treasure. In Pocket Attorney, you'll do something very different. You'll enter the courtroom as an attorney, presenting evidence, putting witnesses on the stand, making motions and objections, and trying to win the jurors over to your side. Let's talk about how to play. Let's talk about how to play Pocket Attorney. In this game, your goal will be to win over all 6 of these jurors. As I say that, I will mention that there are some cards that will remove jurors from the game, in which case your goal is to win any remaining jurors in play. You'll do this by playing evidence, playing witnesses, and defeating your opponent's attempts to do likewise. Inside your mint tin, you'll find various items to help you, first of which is the rule book, which will show the anatomy of a card, as well as the basic layout of the table and the rules for playing the game. Also, we've included a reference card to remind you of the phases of each turn that you will take. The first phase being refresh, second phase being briefcase, third arguments, and the fourth rest. In order to set up the game, you will each want to pick one of the 4 attorneys available to you, placing it in your play area, setting any others aside. Each attorney has a special ability that is persistent throughout the game. This attorney gives me 1 extra point of research to use in the briefcase each turn. Think of the briefcase as a store where you will buy evidence and witnesses and motions and strategies. This attorney, if he draws a contempt card, he can do 1 redraw on that, and we'll show you how that works later. But these are our 2 attorneys that are going to attempt to win this case. Each attorney will start with the same starting hand, including a hearsay objection, a relevance objection, 2 research cards, a sidebar card, a closing arguments card, and a private detective. Set those next to each player. Next, shuffle all of the cards that at the bottom say briefcase and put them in the center of the table to form the briefcase pile, and place 5 cards face up to form the initial briefcase row. The last thing you'll need to do is to place the judge on the table, and be sure to place him with his warning side down. And place the 6 jurors in the middle. As jurors are won over to one side or the other, they will be moved in front of a particular player to indicate that they currently side with that player's case. And just like that, we're ready to play. There are 2 key concepts to discuss before starting to play the game. All of our pocket games feature what is known as the rule of 3. That is to say that at the beginning of each turn, if you don't have at least 3 cards in your hand, let's say I only have these 2, I take my entire discard pile back into my hand. The second part of the rule of 3 is that each turn I have to play or discard at least 3 cards. Now, whether I'm playing 3 cards, using them to buy things from the briefcase, or whether I'm using them as actions or placing them as evidence, I can only play, spend, or discard 3 cards. The one exception is the sidebar card. Whenever you play the sidebar card, which we will explain how to in a moment, this does not count towards your 3 cards. The other thing to understand are the discard rules. And again, these are the same in our entire series of pocket games. If a card is one of your starter cards and you play it or spend it, it gets discarded to your discard pile. If a card says briefcase and you play it or spend it, it goes to the store discard. This is very important. So at the end of your turn, when you're discarding cards, look at the bottom. If it says starter, it gets discarded to your discard. If it says briefcase, it goes to the briefcase discard. It's that simple. Let's look at the cards you have in your starting hand, and that'll give you some idea of the various actions you can take on your turn or on your opponent's. This is an objection card. Both players have a hearsay objection that, if successful, this objection will allow you to discard a witness your opponent has played. Now you can see here it says draw for ruling. When your opponent plays a witness and you play objection, hearsay, you're going to draw the top card of the deck and you're going to see what it says along this edge. If it says sustained, then you're successful. If it says overruled, nothing happens and your objection is simply discarded. If this had said sustained, the opponent's witness would have been discarded. But since it says overruled, nothing happens. The same goes for your relevance objection. You draw for ruling, and if it's sustained, you get to discard your opponent's evidence. Let's try. Oh, you can see this says sustained. Okay, so I will discard that, the card I drew for ruling. I will discard this, but also my opponent has to discard the evidence that I want them to discard. Research cards are fairly straightforward. You use them to get things from the briefcase. Okay, every card that has a value down here at the bottom next to the image of a briefcase can be used to buy things from the briefcase. In this case, these are each worth 2. This also represents the cost of a card. You can see this one in the store, this evidence, costs 3. This one costs 4. This one costs 4, 3, and the defendant is the most expensive card in the store right now. He costs 5. So I can use these, spend them by placing them in my discard. I've got 4 to spend. I can grab, say, this witness. Any card purchased from the briefcase goes to your discard first and will appear in your hand later. And then I replace it with a card from the briefcase deck. And that's how you buy cards from the store. The closing arguments can be spent in the store, but this is the card you're going to use to win the game. Once all of the remaining jurors are on your side, if you play this card, you win the game. The private detective has several functions. He can be spent in the store for 2. He can also be played as evidence or as a witness. You play a card as evidence by simply placing it in front of you. You play a card as a witness by playing it on top of the evidence. And the last card is the sidebar. Like I said earlier, this does not count towards your rule of 3. This does not count. You play this to draw a second ruling in response to an objection. Let's show how that works. Let's say my opponent plays private detective as evidence. I, from my hand, play this objection relevance. It says draw for ruling. If sustained, discard evidence. Well, let's say I draw this card. Okay, overruled. Well, I'm not very happy about that. Okay. I played this trying to get rid of their evidence, but I was overruled. I can play my sidebar to draw a second ruling card, and this time it says sustained. So my opponent's card is discarded along with my objection, and I got rid of their evidence. Now, it's important to remember they could also then play their sidebar card to draw another ruling, in which case it's overruled, their evidence would stay. Let's talk about risky cards. Some cards say risky on them. Okay, these are cards that if you're not careful, they might upset the judge. So when I play this card, say this witness on this evidence, okay, I have to look at the judge. If he's on his safe side, the one without the warning message, I just flip him over. Okay, and I'm done. If he's already on his warning side, well, then I need to draw for contempt. Okay, I've done a risky action. The judge is on his warning side. I need to draw for contempt. If the card I draw says contempt, well, then whatever card I played, whatever risky card I played, is canceled, goes to the discard pile. On the other hand, if the card does not say contempt, then my card is fine, and the judge flips back to his safe side. Let's play a few turns to see what this looks like. So on player one's turn, I have these actions available to me. These include my starting cards, and let's just say some cards that I've purchased over the turns from the briefcase. On my turn, I'm going to play Private Detective as evidence. My opponent now gets a chance, if they want to object. And sure enough, they do. They object on the basis of relevance. So now I'm going to have to draw a card for ruling. It says overruled. Okay, that means their objection was overruled. Their objection goes to their discard pile. Okay, and my evidence stays. If they wanted to follow up by playing sidebar, they could draw another ruling, but they decide not to. Okay, for my second card, I'm going to play a witness on top of this evidence. Now, if these stay, I will win over a juror at the end of this turn. Okay, let's say my opponent, though, decides to object based on hearsay, which will eliminate my witness. Oh, look, they were overruled again. So my witness stays. Now, I've played 2 cards this turn, but remember, there's a rule of 3. I have to play or discard at least 1 more card. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to discard my closing arguments card because I certainly don't need it yet. I'm not even close to controlling all of the jurors. Okay, so it's the end of my turn. I've made all my arguments. I bought all the things I want to buy from the store. This turn I didn't buy anything. And I've got evidence that has a witness on it. I get a juror. So I'm going to take a juror and move her over to my side of the board. Okay, my goal is to have all the jurors on my side. Now, I need to discard these cards. This card says starter, so it goes to my discard. This one I bought from the briefcase, so it's going to the briefcase. Okay, and now it's my opponent's turn. Okay, they check to see if they have at least 3 cards. They do. What are they going to do? Let's see. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to buy something from the store. They're going to spend 2 research cards, so they've got 4 to spend in the store. They place those in their discard, and they're going to grab this strategy. This is a nasty one. Later, they're going to be able to play this either to buy something from the store or to flip an opponent's juror back to neutral. Okay, they're going to put that in their discard, and they're going to replace it from the briefcase pile. Okay, so they've used 2 cards, 2 research. They have 1 more to do. They're going to put a witness on their evidence. Uh-oh, he's risky. Of course it's risky. He's the defendant in this trial. Okay, we go check the judge. Is the judge on his warning side? No, so we don't have to check for contempt, but we do have to flip him. The next person who plays a risky card could be in big trouble. But we're not, so now it's our opponent's chance to object. They'd like to. They're going to object based on hearsay, and they're going to draw for a ruling. Overruled. All right, well, that's not good. They really want to get rid of that witness. So they're going to play their sidebar card. Okay, to allow them to draw another one. Oh, this one is sustained. So that witness is going to go away. But wait, last turn, this player decided not to use their sidebar. They still have it. Okay, so they're going to play their sidebar, which again does not count towards anybody's rule of 3, to draw another ruling. And look, it says overruled. The witness stays. Okay, they've played their 3 cards. They played the witness and 2 research cards. Their opponent was unable to remove the witness or evidence. These are both briefcase cards. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a juror, move it to this side of the table. This player's won that juror over, and because these were both briefcase cards, they go to the briefcase discard. And again, if the briefcase ever runs out of cards, just shuffle this discard pile to form a new briefcase. And in this way, play will go back and forth between the 2 players as they play evidence, play witnesses, play strategies, play objections, until one player controls all the jurors and plays the closing arguments card. That player will win the game.